This is Cycle 2, Week 17, Fine Arts. And our artist this week is Bert Morisot. It's spelled B-E-R-T-H-E, pronounced Bert. Sometimes people pronounce it Beth. She was a famous female artist and one of the very few female artists that was a professional artist. She started out exhibiting her paintings in Paris, but then she began to show her art with the Impressionists. And she actually married the brother of Edward Manet. So she definitely kind of traveled in those circles with other famous artists. Morisot, very similar to other Impressionists, liked to use really thick paint. So it kind of gave the art a 3D dimension. It created more texture. And she would use it in a way where the paint itself was creating texture in areas of the painting that needed more texture, or maybe that needed more emphasis or to draw your eye or attention to it. She also usually painted fairly small paintings. What we have done to recreate it is actually a little bit larger than what she normally would have painted, but I made it a little bit larger so that we would be able to practice actually applying this thick paint. She began painting at a very, very young age and began selling paintings at a very young age, but then she also died at a young age of 54 after caring for one of her daughters. Her daughter survived the illness, but she did not. So you can, decide how much of that you would like to relay to your students. But this particular project, we are going to be using acrylic paint. And instead of using paintbrushes, we're going to be using popsicle sticks. So it'll give them the opportunity to really get the feel of applying the paint more thickly than they would if they were just using a paintbrush. So what I have here for each of your students is a pencil sketch, a line drawing of one of Morisot's paintings. And so, really even for the younger kids, if you think this is a little bit too difficult with the 3D paint or with the making texture with their paint, you can just give them a blank piece of paper. They can do something abstract. They can try to create something that they see in the classroom. You're welcome to go back outside again. That's definitely an option. The example that's given in the book is to take this one, get accustomed to applying the paint within the painting, and then, obviously finish out the painting. The nice thing about using the popsicle sticks is it's a little bit easier to mix paint without having to destroy all the paint of, everybody that's using paint. So this says when using, they call it a palette knife, we're just using popsicle sticks, but it says when using, spread the paint on your paper like you'd spread butter on toast. Don't try to create just much detail, just capture the basic shape. This kind of goes back to our last week's art project where we kind of squinted to get just the main idea of the colors and lights and shadows and shapes that we were seeing without really detailed lines. So it's not super important that they stay within the lines when they recreate this. This is just kind of a guideline to get them started. Another great project, especially for some of the older kids, is to take the other mixed media paper and either cut or fold it in half. This was more the size that Morisot would have painted. So maybe using this as a guide, they can paint it smaller, which would be easier. Not feel like you have to have so much detail, or lightly sketch it first on their own using this as an example, and then paint there. And then obviously if they would rather paint something of their own choosing or something that they see, that is definitely an option. But some things they can do at home to carry this throughout the week or over different breaks, use different unconventional ways of applying paint. So like we're using popsicle sticks, they could get some palette knives and practice with that. They could use Q-tips. They could use pencil tops or pencil erasers. This says toothbrushes, their fingers, spray bottles, rags, and sticks. So having them use different tools to apply their paint will allow them to create all different kinds of textures, especially if they also then use different kinds of paint. Tempera paint is not going to be as thick as acrylic. Watercolor obviously not as thick as tempera, that kind of thing. So they could apply with they could practice and play with all different kinds of textures. Another thing they could do is try to, even with the acrylic paint, thicken it up even more. Add some flour or water, some cornstarch. There's some recipes in the book, the Ridgelight Ranch book, for thickening pastes. So they could, practice with making it even thicker and then making a painting with that. Also, painting on things other than paper, a canvas, rocks, sticks, things like that, bare pieces of wood, and just see, how does my paint apply on those different surfaces? How long does it take to dry? What can I see through? What can I not? Those kinds of things. Just great ways to let them experience and practice with texture and paint. And that is Morisot week 17.